So Jazakallah khair for watching, and I hope you're enjoying this and learning lots. We have now covered the first lot of names, and now we are going to cover the last lot of names. The next one is a shaheed, the all-observing, the witnessing. Shaheed comes from the root sheen ha dal, which points out three meanings. The first meaning is to bear witness. The second meaning is to offer testimony. And the third is to have knowledge of something. So, for example, it tells you in the Quran, am I not your Lord? Okay. And everybody said yes. So what that is actually referring to is that when we were actually made, Adam alayhis salam was made first, and then all his offspring, the souls were all made up on the very first day, basically, when Adam alayhis salam was made. And all of us, we all bowed down to Allah, and we said to him, we will only worship you and nobody else. That is what we said. We did a covenant up there, up in Jannah, behind Adam alayhis salam. And then what happened was we were born, and shaitan kicks in, and everybody has forgotten to worship the one true God, Allah, who we testified to. We took a shahada up there. And then that witnessing, which we did, is still apparent today. So we could keep up that promise that we made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala up there by worshipping Allah down here as well. And this is why we get a certain amount of sukoon and peace in our heart when we worship Allah, because our hearts, our souls promised Allah that we would worship him and nobody else. It's like when you break a promise and you feel really guilty, don't you? And that's why mental health kicks in if you don't have that connection with Allah. So that's one thing. The other thing that will be witnessing against us on the day of judgment is our limbs. They will speak up and they will testify against us. That no, this person's lying. He did this with our hands and he lied with this mouth. So what we can do in this dunya is also to not let our limbs testify against us by always doing good deeds. So that covers ash-shaheed.
So the first part, Shaheed, is Allah's a witness over us that we said, we promised him that we would worship him in this life, and he will hold us account for that promise, because he himself is a witness to that, because we've made that promise to him.
Yes, correct.
And then on top of us, he will be a witness, because isn't it a belief in Islam that if you do something in private, Allah himself is a witness to that?
Yes, he is. So he knows all our secrets and our thoughts.
So he himself is a witness.
Yes, he is. And the witnessing that's mentioned there, he's all observing. So he remembers when you did that, and we are accountable for not worshipping him when we come on this dunya. And then the other thing is that we are accountable then in turn for what our limbs do on the day of judgment. So this is another one of those double ones. So Allah has observed us, witnessing him, and we now need to observe our own selves so that our body parts do not witness against us on the day of judgment. It's a very interesting one. So let us now move on to Al-Haq, which is up there, the absolute truth. Haq comes from the root ha, kaf, and kaf. There's a double kaf in there, which are actually root letters which point to three main meanings. The first meaning is to be true, genuine, substantial, and real. The second main meaning is to be right and to be suitable to the requirements of wisdom and justice. The third is to be established as fact, to be unavoidable, and to happen without doubt. The fourth main meaning is to be proper and to be in accord with the needs of the situation. So this one actually is another one that can be very easily done on this dunya. Basically, we must always speak the truth. We must always advise others to reality and always guide them according to Islam. When you guide people according to Islam, you cannot go wrong because you are actually speaking them the truth, the entire truth, and nothing but the truth. So again, this is something that we can do in this dunya. Al-Wakil, which is the trustee, the disposer of affairs, the one to be relied upon, the only one to be relied upon. So Wakil is actually comes from the root Waw and Kaf and Lam, which points to three main meanings. The first meaning is to appoint or entrust for the care or management of something. The second main meaning is to be a guardian of one's interests. And the third is to rely upon. So this is actually, a vakil is something even in other languages which are mentioned as barristers in courts and things. So this is actually the trustee, the disposer of affairs. And what we must do in this dunya is to completely trust upon Allah. If there is a time when we do not know what to do, whether to go this way or that way, we must put our entire trust in Allah and we must do istikhara salah, which is something which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asked us to do, to put our complete trust in him and then to continue whatever we needed to do. Also, we must not be anxious about the future. We don't know what our future holds. We must put our complete trust in Allah.
Lovely. So could you also say that we ourselves should be someone that's trustworthy? So if we're in a position, like I said, a barrister, if we ourselves are in a position of being a trustee, we have to act as best as we can in that position.
Yes, definitely. We will never be trustworthy. People will never trust on us if we ourselves don't show to be truthful. So if we tell a lie all the time, people are not going to trust us, are they? So we ourselves have to be that good role model, and we ourselves need to be trustworthy in order for people to trust us. Definitely. Okay, the next one, Al-Qawi, is the all-strong. It's not just an ordinary strong, it's the supremely strong, the perfect in strength. Qawi comes from the root Qaf and Waw and Ya, which points to three main meanings. The first meaning is to be strong or to have sufficient power. The second main meaning is to be robust, hardy or steady. And the third is to prevail. And if we look at Ayatul Kursi, it tells you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never tires. He's so strong, and his throne actually lifts up everything. In his hands is lifting up the world and everything, but he never tires. That shows his strength. So what can we do to be strong in this dunya? Did you know the best strength you can have is to be a strong believer? And we can take comfort in Allah's strength when we are ill or when our mind is weak. If we're going through a calamity, turn to Allah for strength so he can give you some strength. Ask him for guidance and for him to make our hardships become ease, like it says in the Quran as well. So that is actually a very important one. Whenever we feel weak, and we are weak, we are the slaves of Allah, we are weak, we need to then rely upon Allah alone to gain strength. Okay, the next one is Al-Mateen, the firm, the steadfast, and the determined one. Mateen comes from the root Mim Ta Nun, which points to four main meanings. The first meaning is to be strong, firm, and hard. The second main meaning is to be solid or robust. The third is to be steadfast, determined, and sure. And the fourth main meaning is to possess any quality to a strong degree. So all of these things, yes, we can definitely apply those in our everyday life. We can be firm in following the right path and the straight path, Siratul Mustaqim. And do you know, we can be quite stubborn in our faith. So people can say whatever, but as long as we are sticking to the Quran and the Hadiths and all the other things which make our religion strong, we can be stubborn in it because nobody can break that stubbornness. And don't give up. Stay firm. Some of us come across so many hardships. Some of our sisters, when we are wearing the hijab, we come across hardships. But stay firm, because in the belief of Allah, you will gain reward, and our ultimate destination will then be Jannah. The more problems we come across in this dunya, the more we can gain in the next dunya, the bigger our reward will be. Be strong. Okay, and the next one is Al-Badi. Some of you may have heard of that word before as a father when you get married. So a wali is the protective friend, the ally, and the protector, the loving guardian. And wali comes from the root waw, lam, and ya, which points to four main meanings. The first main meaning is to be near and to be a friend and supporter. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the friend of Ibrahim alayhi salam, wasn't he? Ibrahim alayhi salam is mentioned in the Quran as being the friend of Allah. The second meaning is to defend and guard in a loving way, like a protector, like our fathers are to us. And the third main meaning is to turn towards something. The fourth main meaning is to be master and lord. So what can we do in this dunya? We can be Allah's wali, like Ibrahim alayhi salam was, his friend, by obeying him and doing everything that he asked for. We can be good to our own walis, which are mainly our fathers, but they can also be our uncles and our other mahrams, who are our protectors. And if you are a father already, or a male person, you can be an active wali in the society by being good walis, protectors of your own daughters especially, and also be good walis towards other people, for example, sisters who do not have walis, who are practicing and have become reverts and need to get married and they haven't got a wali. You can act walis as them as well. There are many, many reverts out there who don't have walis and they need walis. So if you're practicing, you can go out and be their walis. So many things you can do there in this dunya as a wali.
So this is more to do with it can be more applied to men who are in a position to protect others, especially
Yes, definitely. Our mahrams are men. There can only be men that can protect us. There can be our wali when we go and do Hajj as well.
Yeah. Can this be applied to general friends? Like, can I be a wali to my female friends, or is that not really the typical what this attribute is based?
This attribute is actually really applying to a male person. A wali can only be male. So when a girl gets married, it is actually a wali that marries her off.
Yeah.
One who can then take her back in or be responsible if she divorces and then protect her with the money. Because men are the protectors and maintainers of women, they are the ones who are given this title of wali. And it can only be them because they are the ones who can then protect us if anything goes wrong, for example, in a marriage. A wali is also big and strong, and this is why it's really interesting that these three names of Allah have come together: the all strong, the firm, the protective friend. All of those three things are actually equated more to men. Men are more stronger than women. They're taller, for starters. They have muscles, don't they? And this is why they are our guardians, our bodyguards. They are actually our bodyguards, so that they are there to protect us when we go and do Hajj or travel long distances, for example. So it's interesting, these three have come together.
Yeah, so Al-Wali specifically, in short, telling a wali, someone in a position to be a wali, actually, you need to be protective and loving and kind, because some people take it the wrong way as a wali and they might abuse that station and take it
Yes.
as a form of authority, but actually it's more than instead of being a station of authority, it's a station of responsibility.
That's correct. That is correct. It is exactly that. It is a position of responsibility. So when you marry your daughter off, you are responsible if something goes wrong then, because you're acting as their guardian. Very, very interesting. Okay, the next one is Al-Hamid, which is the praiseworthy. He is the only object of praise. No other thing is object of as much praise as Al-Hamid, Allah. Hamid comes from the root Ha-Mim Dal, which points to three main meanings. The first main meaning is to praise with a sense of deep adoration and submission. The second main meaning is to honor or speak well of. And the third is to praise one for what is done by that one's own will. So he is the worthy, the most. And Al-Hamid, actually, there's another word, hamd, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah is something that you say when you praise Allah. So things we can do in this dunya, when you see something really wonderful, you can say Alhamdulillah. When you sneeze, you say Alhamdulillah. And what you are doing is you're actually mentioning this word Al-Hamid, aren't you, when you are doing that? So say Alhamdulillah as much as you can in this lifetime. And that actually, did you know, grows seeds in your afterlife. It grows seeds every time you do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is growing another seed for you up in paradise, in the gardens. And the other thing Alhamdulillah does is you're praising Allah. And what is that doing? In turn, it's increasing your happy endorphins, your happy hormones in your body. So it helps with mental health when you praise. And when you praise Allah, that helps the most. Okay? The next one is Al-Muhsi, and that is the all enumerating. This one is very good. It's to do with numbers. So it is actually Allah who has counted them and numbered them precisely. This is written in Surah Al-Maryam, and that is when this word is being used. And Allah informs us in, does he who created not then know? That's in Surah Mulk. He knows even the most delicate features of all members of creation. He holds them all by their forelocks, for he created their colors, their shapes, images, and features, and also determined their number, it says in the Quran. Surely no person can ever possess this knowledge. Allah knows the number of planets, stars, and celestial bodies, as well as the number of electrons circling an atom's nucleus, how many leaves exist on a tree, and the number of atoms in each leaf. In addition, Allah knows the exact number of sand grains located on the earth's surface. He knows the number of raindrops and how many fishes live in the oceans. Given that he created everything, he also knows the exact number of animals and planet species on earth. The precise number of people have lived since the time of Prophet Adam, because it's him who created them, and the number of people who will live until the day of judgment. He knows all of that. And we actually cannot copy this trait. So there are some that, yes, we can do on this earth, we can mimic them. This is one that we really don't know, because we don't know, we really don't know. And we have to admit that we don't know everything. So for example, Al-Qidr, which was the very wise man who came to show us that. So Musa alayhi salam thought he knew everything because he was a prophet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even told Musa alayhi salam, you don't know everything. And we know about the stories actually in Surah Qaf about Al-Qidr, who came and he knew more than the prophet. and showed him all these things of wisdom which the Prophet never knew. And at the end, Prophet Musa actually said, I didn't know all of that. And I admit I didn't know everything. So this actually is a very special attribute which is very specific to Allah, and we cannot mimic it on this dunya at all.
I'm guessing with these sorts of attributes, we can only realize how it can only humble us really, because there's things that we can't even mimic.
Yes. And the only thing that we can do in this dunya is to praise that Al-Muhsi, who knows all these things. That's the only thing that we can do. So let's look at the next one, Al-Mubdi, the originator. The term Al-Mubdi means basically the starter, okay? It goes very well with other ones like Al-Mu'id, the restorer, the reinstater. So those two names actually come together in hadiths because they are again linked, they are paired up together. When it comes to initiating, it's definitely Al-Mubdi, because it is Al-Mubdi who made everything in the beginning. He did everything. He actually made the world, didn't he? And Al-Mu'id is the restorer. Al-Mu'id is the restorer. And Muhyi comes from, which is also actually linked as well with all of these three, okay? And Muhyi comes from the root ha-ya, which points to four main meanings. The first meaning is to live. The second main meaning is to become apparent or distinct. And the third is to revive, revitalize, vitalize, and call into being. And the fourth main meaning is to be sound or whole. So coming from the beginning, Allah originates life. He then restores that life. And we're looking here into the day of judgment. So we will all, he originated us, then we die, and then he gives us life again. He doesn't just give us life in the originator part, he gives us life at the end as well, when we are then resurrected up on the day of judgment. And this cycle is very, very important. We need to remember when somebody is born that they will die, and then Allah will give them life again. So when someone dies, people get very upset. We need to remember that in the future, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will give us life again. And if we're good in this dunya, we will meet our loved ones again up in Jannah. We will be restored with them. Okay, and those three are very important, and they're all linked, and they all begin with Allah. So what we can do is basically just to remember that all of us, when we are born, we will die, and then we will be returned to him. These are the three stages of life. Okay.
Can these only be applied to life, or could they be applied to different contexts, such as Al-Mu'id? Could that be applied to maybe the state of the heart? You know, sometimes you go through hard stuff and you feel like your heart's never going to recover from it, but Allah originally created that heart, so he can restore what it wants.
Yes, it can, and it can be to knowledge as well. So you do hear about some people who leave the religion and go towards a different religion, and then later on in their life they always come towards their deen again. I know so many people who as children, their parents instilled Islam in them. Then they go off the rails for a little while during their teenage years. And then later on, once they're older and they become parents themselves, all of a sudden the religion is still in them, and then they go to the mosque again. They start going to the mosque.
And that's Allah still being Al-Mubdi, Al-Mu'id,
yes,
in that context as well.
Yeah. He's restoring what he originated, which was you taking the Shahada.
Yes.
The day we were born and made, when we were made with Adam alayhi salam, and then restoring our faith later on in life. And that's giving us life, then making us alive and happy again, isn't it? So yes, it definitely can be applied in different contexts. It can be. Okay, let's now have a look at the next bit, and this is again linked and again it begins with the ma. Al-Mumit, the inflictor of death. Okay, so the creator of death, the destroyer, the one who renders the living dead. Allah is Al-Mumit, the one who gives life and the one who takes it away, and only He can. Okay, and again, we need to basically remember our afterlife. We need to remember one day we will die. We need to look at our deeds. We need to keep a check on our deeds, because one day the life of this world will finish, and then we will be returned to Allah, and then Allah will ask us about what we did on this dunya. This dunya is just a test, and it is an amusement. It's written in the Quran as amusement, like a fun fair. We're only there for a day or two. Did you know when we go up to Allah and we look back at our life, it's going to be like it was just a day and a half or a part of a day. It's going to be like we were down here part of a day. How scary is that? So we need to constantly contemplate about our life and understand that we will be dying at one stage, because everybody has to die. Even the prophets died, and Jesus, who didn't die, is going to come back and then die. So we need to reflect on that. And then linked with death again in life is Al-Hayy, the ever-living. The only person who's ever living is Allah. Everybody else will die. Hayy comes from the root ha, ya, ya, which points to four main meanings. The first meaning is to live. The second main meaning is to become apparent or distinct. The third is to revive, vitalize, and call into being. And the fourth main meaning is to be sound or whole. So Hayy, is that what it means? And what we need to do really is to remember that we will die one day, but we can also be ever living. How can we be ever living? By doing good deeds and going to Jannah, and then we become eternal. And Allah then instills that wonderful attribute of His, which is ever living, into us. And then we can live forever as well. Okay, by doing good deeds. The only thing we're in control of at the moment is us doing good deeds. Okay, and the next one is Al-Qayyum, which is the sustainer, the self-subsisting, the self-existing, one upon whom all others depend. He is the only one in the world, in the whole universe, who is the self-sustainer himself. And what we can remember from this one is that there is nobody else that we can depend on but Allah. We can never ever say that this is dependent on me to do, because everything lies in Allah's hands and on Allah. So He is the only one who can sustain us as well as human beings. Our kismat, our destiny, all relies upon Him. Our life alone relies upon Him. Only He knows when we are going to die, and He can take us away within seconds and we can stop breathing. He is the sustainer of the whole universe. He said be, and the world came to be. He will say be, and the world will dissolve within seconds, and the trumpet will be blown, and the whole world will go like He made in the beginning. And all of this actually is, again, so many attributes of this, again, in Ayatul Kursi, which is the most powerful ayah which protects us from harm. Okay, Al-Wajid is the next one, the perceiver. This means Wajid is self-sufficient, all-perceiving. Okay, Allah is completely independent of everybody. He is not dependent on anybody at all. And that's what we mean by self-sufficient and all-perceiving as well. So what can we do? We can try and be as independent as possible when it comes to everyday jobs. We should not be dependent, for example, on our children to do things for us. We need to do things for ourselves. We need to work hard. The other thing is, when it comes to our religion, we need to be independent. Only we are liable for our own deeds. Other people's good deeds will not benefit us, and our good deeds will not benefit them. Okay? So we need to remember this. And when it comes to good deeds, we must be completely independent from everybody else, because our deeds will only benefit us on the day of judgment. And on the day of judgment, even mothers will leave their children and say, I don't know you. They're only going to be worried about themselves. Okay, the next one is Al-Majid, the illustrious, from the root Mim, Jim, and Dal, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to be glorious, dignified, noble, honorable, exalted, sublime, to be liberal, bountiful, exceedingly generous. Indeed, it is He, it says in the Quran, who originates creation and repeats, and He is the forgiving, the affectionate, glorious owner of the throne, effector of what He intends. And that is actually in chapter 85 of the Quran. So again, this one is too high. We can't be like this. The only way really to try and do something in this dunya is to actually elevate Allah in this role and pray to the illustrious. Pray to Him, and by doing that, we will gain good deeds as well.
So it's really just acknowledging that this is just one attribute just that Allah has, and accepting that the hierarchy, that we cannot be Al-Majid, but that's Allah.
Yes, correct. Yes, we cannot be Al-Majid at all. Only He can be this, because this attribute is so high, and it talks about the throne being so high. The throne, or the owner of the throne is above everybody. So to a tiny little degree, we may be able to be this, maybe as a king or something, but not to the level that this attribute is shown in this, with these letters. Okay. The next one is Al-Wahid, the one. Now, this is a very, very special attribute. It doesn't just mean the one, it means apart from others. It means the one, and that's it. Allah. Okay? Allah, Al-Ilah means the God. And this is similar, the one. And that's it. Nothing else can come near to the one. Wahid comes from the root Waw Ha Dal, which points to four main meanings. The first meaning is to be one, to be made one, and to be called one. The second main meaning is to connect, join, and unite. And the third is to be unique and singular. And the fourth is to be one apart from others. So this one is very, very interesting and unique. The one whose nature it is to exist, the one who is free of any dependence on anything else for existence, the one through whom all things arise, the one by whom all things are eternally managed aright, the ever-living, self-existing one who is the foundation upon which all other things exist. He is basically the one. And this actually attribute is in surahs within the Quran, where it tells you not to equate Jesus with God. So the biggest thing that we can learn from this attribute is not to do any shirk of any kind whatsoever. So do not worship any idols, do not follow any festivals, pagan festivals, which are to do with worshipping other gods. you know, and they're all there. The whole of the calendar that we follow, the solar calendar in this country, is all to do with pagan festivals. We need to avoid those because we are then following the way of people who do shirk. And Trinity, we know, is not allowed either. The only person we have to worship is the one true God, Allah Al-Wahid. And then the next one is very, very similar, again linked, Al-Ahad. We all know about Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Allahu Samad, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. Okay, all of that surah is there just completely to break shirk. The unique one, the only one, Al-Ahad. Al-Ahad means the sole one, the unity. Ahad comes from the root Hamza, Ha, and Dal, which points to two main meanings. The first meaning is to be the only one and sole, and the second main meaning is to unite or unify. Okay, and again, in our lifetime, we need to do no shirk whatsoever. Do not visit saint. Do not ask anybody else apart from Allah for things. Do not use all these little amulets and things where you believe other things will bring you luck, because that is also shirk. Do not have those eyes in your house that you put up. Say the words of Allah to protect yourself. Do not wear anything that you think will protect you either. All the amulets and all that business. Do not do black magic, because black magic is worshipping the jinn. It's not worshipping Allah. All these tiny, tiny things which people are not aware of is all to do with shirk. Fortune telling is to do with shirk as well. Okay?
So it's all really just to reinstate that Tawheed, the oneness in Allah, the belief that they're just one Allah. You don't need anyone else. You don't need anything else to protect you. You just need the one.
That's correct. And Islam is the only religion on earth at the moment that is practicing complete Tawheed. So if you look at Christianity, which is supposed to be a monotheistic religion, there is Trinity there. Jesus is not only the Son of God, he is God as well. And if you look at other things like Judaism, it says in the Quran that they believed that Ezra or Uzair was the son of God. So there is shirk there as well. They also have amulets at the front of their house, which protects them, whereas we say the words of Allah to protect us. So these are all very, very important.
We obviously believe that Allah is not a human, etc. So that's what makes us stand up, because we believe in him not being a person.
Exactly.
And that he has no partners, no nothing. He's just the only, like you say, one.
Yes, exactly. He is. And then As-Samad, the eternal satisfier of needs, of all needs, the everlasting refuge. Samad comes from the root Sad, Mim, Dal, which points to two main meanings. The first main meaning is to reach or attain or to aim towards something. The second main meaning is to turn and to need. And the third is to remain unchanged and unaffected. The fourth main meaning is to be everlasting and eternal. And because he is the eternal satisfier of needs, did you know that true satisfaction can only happen if we truly worship him? And in the Quran, there is an ayah which tells us that there is a void in the heart of somebody who does not pray to Allah. And whoever does not remember Allah, they will truly lead a depressed life. Tells you that as well. And there are so many ayahs in the Quran that tell us that a satisfied heart can only be achieved by praying to Allah. And I know so many reverts who have told me that their lives were empty. They had everything. They had money, they had everything. But still there seemed to be this void in their heart. And when they came towards Islam, they felt that void was filled. And that is this brilliant attribute of eternal satisfier, which you can only achieve that satisfaction if you truly worship as-Samad, Allah.
Because that almost takes us back to like the covenant that we took with Allah, that Allah took from us. It's part of our fitra, isn't it, to want to worship, to want the God? Because if you think about it, religion has been there since the beginning of time, and it's something that is so prevalent in all of time.
Yes.
In what society that they've got a religion, or they've
Yeah.
they still have some sort of religious belief. So it seems as though it's just natural for human beings to want to worship something or someone.
Yes, and that satisfaction comes when you fulfill a promise, doesn't it? So when you think of a promise you've made somebody and you haven't done it, you feel a certain amount of restlessness, don't you, until you've done it. Then when you fulfill that promise, you feel satisfaction, you've done what you were supposed to do. This is exactly the same. So you promised Allah at the beginning you will worship him, and then you don't do it, and you forget about him, and this restlessness is there. But then when you worship him, that void in your heart then gets filled, and your soul remembers that this is what the soul used to do, and now we're doing it again.
Lovely. And could that also be applied again in different contexts, such as its needs don't just have to be spiritual needs, such as worshipping something that is, again, we've established that's a need of human being. There's other needs like there might be homeless people or poor people that need food, water. We could be samad for them in terms of
yes. So that's something we can do, satisfy other people's needs. So Allah satisfies our need when we pray to him. What can we do to satisfy other people's needs? So we can feed the homeless, we can give money to widows, we can give money, sadaqah, to orphans, we can give money to charity, and those things satisfy us. They make you feel good, don't they? Yeah, when you give people things. So very, very good one, that one, as-Samad. Again, Al-Ahad and as-Samad, they come together. Al-Qadir is also a very, very important attribute of Allah, the omnipotent one, which means the most powerful, the all-capable. Qadir comes from the root Qaf Dal Ra, which points to four main meanings. The first meaning is to have the power to accomplish, to be capable. The second is to measure, to distribute something, or to make manifest. The third is to decree or ordain. And the fourth is to prevail. So what we can do really in this dunya is to be totally content with what Allah has given us, be completely content and trust him, put trust in him, because he is this omnipotent one. And istikhara is something else that we can do if we ever go into troubles and things. We can completely put our trust in Allah, because he will then guide us on what needs to be done. And he's also the all-determining as well. And that brings me to the next one, because the next one is normally done, put together with Al-Qadir, Al-Muqtadir, the powerful. Both Muqtadir and Qadir come from the same root, Qaf Dal Ra, which points to four main reasons. The first meaning is to have the power to accomplish, to be capable. The second, to measure, to distribute something, or to make manifest. The third is to decree or to ordain. And the fourth is to prevail. And with the all-powerful one, the Muqtadir, in this dunya, we must never think that we have the powers to do everything. We must always remember that we have to be dependent on other powers. Just like flowers are dependent on oxygen, carbon dioxide, and the sun, okay? And the sun, to be able to shine, in a way, is dependent on night and day rotation, isn't it? The moon is dependent on the sun shining on it for it to show. Everything on this dunya is dependent on something. A lamp is dependent on electricity, okay? Plants are dependent on good soil. We are dependent on Allah. And we cannot do anything at all in our dunya, in this life, on our own without having the all-powerful helping us, even when it comes to our brain as well. Okay, really interesting on that one. And there's that one showed when this pandemic happened, didn't it? That one time everybody realized no matter what we can do, we all relied on Allah. Somebody was trying to get a vaccine out, and even the presidents, that all the money in the world in America didn't help at the time to get a vaccine out, did it?
No, yeah, I think that was very humbling with COVID coming, and then you realized the whole world was in a lockdown.
Yeah, and then in the end, when the vaccine did come, Allah put that brain power in those two Muslims, the couple that invented the vaccine in the first place. Allah put that in there, in their heads. They didn't do it of their own accord, because even intellect, akal, comes with Allah, doesn't it? It doesn't just come. So, and I know this, gosh, do I know this from special needs children and adults, who they don't have the intelligence, and Allah hasn't given it to them, but they've surpassed in other areas. So everything is from the all-powerful. Okay, the next one is Al-Muwakhir, and that means the delayer, the one who puts things in their right places. He makes ahead what he wills and delays what he wills. Allah is Al-Muwakhir, the one who delays or holds back. By his will, he can detain unbelievers on the day of judgment and hold them back. And it's mentioned in many ayahs in the Quran and in the Hadiths, this word. From the root akhir, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to cause to go back, backwards, retreat, recede, retire, drive back, to put behind, or after, to cause to remain behind, hang back, lag behind, to postpone, put off, delay, retard. And again, the word akhirah comes to play here, doesn't it? Which means after. So this is really interesting. If you think of life itself, the Muslims are ahead, the non-Muslims are behind. On the day of judgment, likewise, the Muslims will enter Jannah first, and then it will be the Christians, and then it will be the Jews. Allah has guided who he wanted to. If you look at in this dunya, if you look at two children, they may be twins, they may be doing the 11 plus. And some people, one of the twins is way ahead and has grasped the concepts, the other one hasn't. If there's a lecture to do with Arabic language, some ladies are far ahead and some have lagged behind. These are all really to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the delayer. He delays who he wills, and he will delay people on the day of judgment. Some of us will be there for 50,000 years drowning in our sweat. And some of us, the reckoning will be really, really fast, the ones who are the believers. So if we don't want to be delayed, we need to worship Allah so that he hurries us up into Jannah very, very quickly. Okay, and then moving on to the next one, which is linked to this one. So this one was the delayer, and now we've got the first one, Al-Awwal, the first one, the foremost, the pre-existing. Awwal comes from the root Hamza, Waw, Lam, which points to three main meanings. The first meaning is to be first or to be before. The second meaning is to come back to or to return. And the third main meaning is to be foremost. So again, when we know about hadiths, it tells us that Muslims will be the first to enter Jannah. So we need to try and mimic that on this dunya, and we need to try and worship Allah so that we can be the first on the day of judgment to enter Jannah. Islam should be always first in our lives. Our ibadah should be first in our lives, and everything else, dunya matters, can all come afterwards.
And could that be linked to the fact that there was before everything, life itself, it was just Allah? So it's almost like a way to humble us, like Allah came first no matter what.
Yes, he was the first and he was the foremost. He was first and everything else came afterwards. Okay? And what I have just explained to you is how we can now become first when we get up there by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will make us the first ummah to enter Jannah. Okay, and the next one is a really interesting one because it goes with the first. We've done the first and now we've got to do the last. Al-Akhir, and I did mention Akhir earlier with the other attribute, the last. Comes from the root Hamza, Kha and Ra, which points to three main meanings. The first meaning is to be latter and to put back. The second is to postpone or to put at the end. And the third main meaning is to be final, last, and ultimate. Okay? So our desire really should be that at the end, when the end comes, our akhirah comes, our desire should be to see Allah. And that should be motivating us now. We should be motivated that, oh, I want to see Allah, I want to see Allah. And we should have the desire to see Allah. And that should be our last wish, really, before we die. And that's how we can practice that attribute in our dunya here.
Yes, and it is said that in Jannah that will be a gift, wouldn't it, to see Allah? That will be the last thing, that almost like the cherry on top of the cake. It's to see Allah once we enter.
Yes, the ones on Jummah who will go to the market will actually see the face of Allah. Isn't that just so amazing and so wonderful? So it's aspiration for us in this dunya to work towards that. And then Zahir, Az-Zahir, the manifest. Clear or obvious is the meaning of manifest. And the Most High, the one who overcomes. Zahir comes from the root Zahara, which points to five main meanings. The first meaning is to be visible, manifest, and distinct. The second is to open or to come out. The third meaning is to ascend and have a higher status. The fourth meaning is to subdue and overcome. And the fifth is to help and support others. So there are so many things here that we can use in our everyday lives. The first meaning is to be visible, manifest. Allah is visible to those who open up their eyes and their hearts. Those people who Allah has made deaf, dumb, and blind, which I mentioned in the Quran many times, can't see Allah. But if we open up our hearts and minds, look around us, contemplate at the nature, what that does is it makes our hearts and minds open to seeing Allah. Okay? And the other one it talks about in the fifth attribute is to help and support others. And yes, of course we can do that in our dunya. We can help our parents, our elderly parents. We can support them if they need any money. And we can support the weak and vulnerable, which includes homeless and orphans and widows. All of those we can do. And then the next one is Al-Badi, the hidden one, knower of the hidden. Again, can you see the symmetry here? So Az-Zahir was the clear, the open one to be seen. And then Al-Badi is to do with hidden. It's the opposite. And those names come together. Batin comes from the root Ba-ta-na, which points to two main meanings. The first meaning is to be concealed and lie hidden, and the second is to be inside and penetrate into. So basically, we need to learn from this attribute that yes, there are some things that are hidden. We do not know everything, because Al-Badi is the knower of the hidden only. So there's things about jinns, black magics that we do not know about. And There are also other things, and we've got the biggest example of Musa alayhi salam, who said he knew everything because he was a prophet, and then Al-Khidr was sent to him, who was a very, very wise man with lots of wisdom, who showed him that he actually didn't know anything. We don't know why the calamity, the pandemic happened. We can guess, but we don't really know the real reason. We sometimes don't know why a calamity hits us. Why did it happen? And it's only later on we realize that that happened because this good was going to happen, or that bad happened because if that bad hadn't happened, we wouldn't have become closer to Allah. Only He knows the secrets. He is the one who hides things for us and then makes them appear at a time that is planned by Him, because He is the best of planners. Al-Wali is the governor, the patron, the one who owns things and manages them. Allah is Al-Wali, the one who is the sole planner and governor of all things. He is the only one who knows the ultimate plan of everything. Everything. We can follow Allah, but we don't know what His plan is, and we do not know the end of our qismat. We do not know our destiny. So we just have to go ahead, and we need to just worship Allah and put our trust in Him as a governor to show that He is the best of planners. The next one is Al-Muta'ali, the Self-Exalted, the Supreme, the one, the highest of all. Muta'ali comes from the root Ain Lam Waw, which points to four main meanings. The first is to be high, lofty and exalted, and to ascend. The second main meaning is to overcome and overwhelm. And the third, to advance and exceed. The fourth main meaning is to be eminent. So, because He is the self-exalted, nothing can be higher than Him. It is only Him that we need to worship, and we need to try not to do any shirk whatsoever, which comes about in so many different ways. Like I explained earlier, that can be in the form of amulets, it can be in the form of praying through somebody else, it can be in the form of following pagan practices, festivals, it can be in the form of amulets and things like that as well, or copying people who are munafiqeens, hypocrites and things. We need to be careful. Move on to Al-Bar, the source of all goodness. That includes the kind, gracious, benefactor, the righteous. Bar comes from the root Bar, Ra, Ra, double Ra there, which points to five main meanings. The first main meaning is to be devoted and gentle, and the second is to be just, proper, and honest. The third main meaning is to be having regard for someone's circumstances, and the fourth is to bestow bountiful gifts and be ample. The fifth main meaning is to do good and be righteous. So there is a lot there, a lot there. And what we can do is really show goodness on this dunya by charity, giving to charity, sadaqah, be kind to people, and have sabr, have patience. That is another way of showing kindness as well. At-Tawwab, the ever pardoning, the relenting. So the acceptor of repentance, the oft forgiving, the acceptor of our return. Allah is At-Tawwab, the one who beckons for our return. He repeatedly turns mankind towards repentance should their journey temporarily fall on the wrong path. Allah is very lenient and restores grace to those who repent and forgives those who seek forgiveness. And the ever pardoning, and we will look at actually the pardoner later on. in another attribute. But for this, we should be doing dawah, calling Allah, keep repenting, and keep doing good. So dawah and calling to Allah is the main one here that we can do in this dunya.
And you could say that with the attribute of the ever pardoning, we could be people who pardon others who wrong us. In
Yes.
hopes that Allah will pardon us.
Yeah. And that one I'm going to do later on because we have to come to that attribute the partner yet. So I saved it for that one, but yes, that is correct. Okay. The next name is Al-Muntaqim, the Avenger, the one who victoriously prevails over his enemies and punishes them for their sins. Allah is most patient, but the time will come where justice must be given. Avoid things which Allah has forbidden, for he punishes those when provoked. So basically, this name is actually talking about Allah will actually punish anybody for their sins. And Allah is most patient, but he will also give justice as well. So avoid things basically that Allah has forbidden, because he punishes those who provoke him. And we know that about on the day of judgment, for example, that we will be liable for our sins and we are accountable only for what we do, and Allah will definitely punish us. And that is actually what his name is, what that means. He will punish us for our sins and we are liable for all our deeds. Okay, the next one is Al-Afu, which is the pardoner, the one who eliminates sins. Afu comes from the root Ain Fa Waw, and which points to three main meanings. The first main meaning is to forgive and pardon. The second is to efface and remove. The third main meaning is to give willingly and more than what is due. Now, there is a big difference actually between pardoning and forgiving. So we have already covered the word forgiving. So 5 times at least, it is mentioned in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a pardoner. Okay. And by pardoning, it actually means that the sin is completely not even written down. Okay. It is completely just being erased completely. Okay. And what we will look at here is the difference. So his name is also Al-Ghafur, the forgiving in the Quran. And Allah may forgive some people and pardon others. Forgiving means that Allah conceals our sins and mistakes, and we will not be punished for them on the day of judgment. However, they are still there in our book of deeds. Okay? But did you know that when Allah pardons the sins of people, the sins are completely erased from our book of deeds? He will not even remind us of those sins, and not even question us on them, simply because those sins have been completely removed. So being pardoned is actually greater than forgiveness. I would actually rather be pardoned than forgiven, because with forgiven, it is still written on our deeds and we can still be questioned about those sins on the day of judgment. So how can we be good pardoners? We can pardon others, okay? We can forgive them their mistakes, and we cannot remind them again of those mistakes that they have done in the past. And that is exactly what the pardoner does. They do not remind people of their past mistakes again. They erase them immediately, forget about them. Okay? So there is a really, really good example for us. And I think that is a very, very good thing, being a pardoner. And I would love to be pardoned. I would be ashamed, even if Allah forgives my sins, but then reminds me on the day of judgment. I would like him to forget about them.
So there's a distinct difference between being forgiving or being forgiven and pardoned. So just to reiterate, forgiving is, it's still there, it's still acknowledged that you've made a mistake or a sin, but it's just forgiven. There's no anger, no negative emotion about it. Whereas pardon is like it never even happened in the first place. There's no difference. And the way we as people can be forgiving is that we forgive others, but we still acknowledge this person made this mistake or hurt me in this way, but I'll forgive them, but acknowledge that they can, the type of damage they can do. However, to be pardoners, we simply just move on as though nothing happened.
Yes, and we don't remind them again. And it's when you think of a rubber or an eraser.
Yeah.
We erase that sin completely, so it's a clean book and you can't even see it. Whereas a sin is written down in a book and we cross it off. So you can still see under the cross that the sin is there. That's a really good example. Whereas a pardoner will rub off the sin, you can't even see the sin. I think that's a really good way of explaining it, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Good imagery.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let us now move on to the next name, which is Rauf, the most kind. He is the one who bestows mercy with the utmost tenderness. Rauf has beautiful pity on us, with which he gently warms us, withholds from us, and instructs us all that is good. And the one, he is the most kind, the most tender, the most merciful. Rauf comes from the root Ra Hamza Fa, which points to three main meanings. The first main meaning is to be gentle and kind and forgiving, and the second is to be merciful and compassionate. The third main meaning is to show pity and tenderness. And this name, did you know, is actually related to the pardoner, because in order to pardon people's sins, all these traits of Rauf need to be present in order to pardon people. Now, how can we learn to be the most kind? The most kindest person was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He did not have any black spot in his heart. It had been completely removed from his heart. And we can learn from that. We can learn from the stories, the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we can learn to pardon people by being the most kind. Okay, the next name is Malikul Mulk, the master owner of the kingdom. Malik, we already know, means master or king. Al means of, and Mulk is the kingdom, the world. Okay, it is only Allah who is the king, the ruler, the owner of dominion. And Malik, we already covered that one. The root is Ma-laka, which points to three main meanings. The first main meaning is to having possession and ownership. The second is to have power and ability. And the third main meaning is to control and have authority. We can never ever be a Malikul Mulk. This is one trait which can only be given to Allah. Okay? We cannot be the owner of the whole universe. However, we can remind ourselves every day that one day Malikul Mulk, who is the master of the whole of the kingdom, will confront us on the day of judgment. We can reflect on his kingdom that we actually live in, the dunya. We can also supplicate to him to elevate him, to worship that Malikul Mulk. And if Allah puts us in a position of being a ruler of a small world, a small city, a small town, or a small area, like a councillor or a president or an MP or a prime minister or a king or queen or a queen's representative, then we must rule as just people and as good people without oppressing anybody. So those are all those things that we can do to elevate Allah's name, Malikul Mulk. Okay, and the next name is Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, the possessor of glory and honor, Lord of majesty and generosity. This is also a very, very high name. And as we go along the names, they become bigger and bigger, okay? The honor of loftiness and majesty, the Lord of generosity and nobility. So Jalal comes from the root Jim Lam Lam, which points out to three main meanings. The first main meaning is to be glorious, majestic and sublime. The second main meaning is to be high, lofty and independent. And the third, to be supremely great. So what we need to do is to recognize that beautiful source. We need to receive gifts from people or someone that benefits you by giving support or help, support someone, give gifts. Know that the source of all of these bounties is actually from Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. And we can actually mimic that generosity by being generous ourselves as well as people, towards other people. And we should really be generous towards our families, which come first. And then after our families come everybody else. And that includes anybody we need to give zakah to, or the orphans, the hungry, the poor, the needy, and widows. Okay? And that's the order that we have been actually told in the Quran, that we need to be generous to our family first, and then comes everybody else.
So out of all the aspects of this attribute, the one that we can mimic is the generosity part. Because we obviously can't be the possessor of glory, honor, the Lord of Majesty, but we can, to some extent, mimic generosity, as we can give things to others, like money and food and gifts, and as you mentioned.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be materialistic things, which I've mentioned so many times. The best gifts that you can give to people do not involve money. So things like knowledge, which is not only is it sadaqah jariyah for you, so right until the day of judgment, you will gain all the good deeds that person will mimic you when he learns, or he or she learns from you, but they will also gain as well, because then they will tell other people, and it's a multitude. So knowledge is a really, really good one, which people never think about. But I've come across many people of so much knowledge, but they don't want to share it. They keep hold of it. They're quite miserly in that. But did you know, even in our knowledge, Allah will ask us on Qiyamah that I gave you that knowledge. It was me who gave you that knowledge, and why didn't you use it, utilize it in the right way? So it isn't just money, it's everything that we can share with others, good that Allah has given to us in the first place. Let's now move on to the next word, which is Al-Muqsid, the just one. Okay, and that is from the root Baf, Sin, and Doi, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to act justly, equitably, to do away with injustice, to establish an equitable balance. The one who is most equitable and just, the one whose ways are balanced and just, the one who establishes justice, the one who creates harmony and balance, the one who does away with injustice, the one who leads mankind to justice and harmony. Okay? So those are all those beautiful, wonderful attributes. And the way that we can mimic that is to be just with others, those who insist first of all on justice from themselves for others, but forbear demanding it from another for themselves. So we need to be careful. We need to be just in our way of thinking towards others. And believe me, we do come across this in our dunya. The next one is Al-Jami, the gatherer, the uniter, the one who gathers and collects. Jami comes from the root Jim, Mim, Ain, which points to three main meanings. The first meaning is to gather or to bring together, accumulate, or congregate. The second main meaning is to connect, combine, or unite. The third main meaning is to reconcile or resolve. And the fourth is to arrange, assemble, or compose. Now, this main name has so many different little areas that we can think about. The gatherer reminds you of the day of judgment when he resurrects all of us and he brings us all together, all in one place. We also remember the day he gathered all of us when we took our covenant, the very first day our souls were made with Adam and Son. Okay? He also unites us every day in prayers in the mosques as well, doesn't he? Yes? So these are things for us to reflect on this dunya. We should go to Jummah, where there is a congregation of Muslims all together. We must also remember our day of gathering, not only in the past, which was when we took our covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but what is to come, which is Qiyamah. Okay? And the other thing is that we should bring people together. We should reunite people. So people who, for example, have broken up, two friends that have broken up and don't talk to each other, if you bring them back together, Allah gets really, really happy, really happy. Reunite family members, reconcile them, because this name means reconciliation as well. So did you know that all of these attributes we can, if we wanted to, we can mimic these in our everyday lives. Okay, the next one is Al-Ghani, the self-sufficient, the wealthy, the independent as well. Ghani comes from the root Ghain, Noon, and Ya, which points to four main meanings. The first main meaning is to be self-sufficient and independent. The second, to be free from needs or wants. The third main meaning is to be satisfied and content. And the fourth is to be wealthy and rich. Okay? So by being wealthy and rich, in a way, you do become self-sufficient, don't you? Because you've got the money and you can stand on your own 2 feet. You can get your food, your rizq. You don't need anybody else. This is what we need, what we mean here. But the wealthy can also be wealth in terms of knowledge and deen as well. It's not just money, okay? Now, how can we mimic this name? The first thing is that we must not let wealth distract us, which is mentioned in the Quran many, many times. It even tells you your children can be a distraction for you. So we must not let worldly things distract us, okay? That is the first thing. We must also stick to the Quran. If we stick to the Quran and Ibadah and the Deen, then worldly distractions will not take us away from the Deen, like money and too much food and too many kids and all the rest. How can we be self-sufficient in this dunya? We must be grateful for everything that we've got. We are not allowed to beg, it says in the Hadiths, or ask anything from others when there is no need. So did you know in Islam, we are not allowed to beg unless there is a real need. We have to try and be self-sufficient. Use the limbs Allah has given us to work hard, okay? We're not allowed to be lazy. Laziness is from shaitan. And whatever you have got, wealth, give it to people. That includes money, knowledge, clothes, food, even love is a non-materialistic thing, free, which you can give to people as well. Okay?
Yeah, so in short, Allah is the owner, He is the self-sufficient, the wealthy, but again, to some extent, we can mimic that self-sufficiency in terms of when we work and we are able to stand on our 2 feet, we are able to earn money so that we have some sort of wealth coming in, but in all of that, we have to still be grateful to the owner of all our wealth and the one that is the most self-sufficient. And that is giving our wealth and any sort of blessing that we have to those around us and those that may not have as much as us. And again, you mentioned that wealth might not be monetary, it might not be actual money, but it could be in other ways. So someone has a lot of clothes or a lot of food, but they can share that out with those who have less than them. Could you say that's an example, or that's another way of contextualizing that?
It is, and it stops you getting arrogant then, because too much wealth, they say money is the root of all evil, and that is actually the same in our religion. So too much money causes bad, arrogance, gets you all high and mighty. So in a way, by giving away some of your wealth, which Allah, don't forget, has given it to you in the first place, you are accepting that Allah gave it to you, you're acknowledging, you are being grateful. And by giving it away, you are giving away back in a way to Allah. When you give it to poor people, you're giving some back to Him. It's a little bit like zakat, isn't it? So Allah gives you all that money in the first place, which is the iman of Allah anyway. And then in Allah's name, you give that zakat to some poor people, don't you, as well? So it's really, really interesting concept. It really is. Okay, right. Al-Mughni is the next one, the Enricher. This is again linked with Al-Ghani, okay, because it means the bestower of wealth, the fulfiller of needs. From the root ghna, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to be free from wants or needs, to be self-sufficient, which we spoke about already, to be able to do without help from others, to be content, satisfied, to be rich and wealthy, and the one who gives wealth abundantly. It's the one who provides all that is needed, the one whose wealth fulfills all needs, the one who enriches all of creation, the one who creates all appearances of independence or self-sufficiency, the one who bestows satisfaction and contentment, the one who bestows spiritual wealth. Now, everything we spoke about under the name of Al-Ghani also actually applies to this name as well. All of it, exactly the same. Okay, so He enriches us. We use some of that money then to give to the poor. We don't get haughty, and we have to be grateful, and we have to be satisfied. Everything applies.
Could it also be, for example, the translation or on the screen says the Enricher? Could it be that it's almost like another cycle where Allah provides you with different types of wealth and makes you, enables you to be self-sufficient and earn money for yourself. And when you give that away, donate, share, spread, share your wealth, Allah then gives you more and He enriches you again.
Yes, and it is a beautiful cycle, isn't it? It is a beautiful cycle there. By enriching you, He makes you self-sufficient and He makes you wealthy, which is the Al-Ghani. And then when we use some of that money towards the poor, then He enriches us more. He doubles our money. So it's absolutely amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful cycle there. And it's a natural cycle, isn't it? So the stoppage really in the dunya is when people get high and mighty, they get stingy and miserly and they don't use their money. Then Allah takes it all away and you become bankrupt, or you're not grateful. When you're not grateful, Allah takes it all away, doesn't He?
Yeah.
Many, many stories actually. I mean, Qarun is actually in the Quran. He was a greedy man and he hid all his wealth, didn't he? And he never ever gave it away, and he was not grateful at all. He didn't even acknowledge there was an Allah, and he said, I did all of this, so I've got all this wealth because of my hard work. And then in the Quran, it tells you that the earth swallowed him up with his wealth. The earth opened up a big hole and he went in it with his wealth. And don't forget, are we going to take our wealth with us up to Allah? No, all we're going to take up is our good deeds. So the money which Allah's given you, you're not going to take up with you. But what you are going to take up with you is how much of that money did you give away to the poor? That's what's going to go up with you to Allah, isn't it? So the money that Allah's given you and then enriched you with, that's a test. to see what are you going to do with that money. The test is, are you going to give it away?
And that's any sort of wealth. For example, anyone that has cattle and things that they can make wealth, so that they can sell and make profit from. It's anything.
It's
That can
anything.
bring them
It's
wealth.
anything. It's knowledge. It's anything that Allah's given you. Okay.
I think, yeah.
The other really good example here is, you know, Khadija radiallahu anha, Prophet Muhammad's wife. She was very, very rich. She actually already owned 2 businesses before she even met Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was a rich, rich lady, and the Prophet actually was poor in comparison to her, and he actually went to live in her house. Now, did you know during her lifetime, she gave away all her wealth, she did, to orphans and the needy. She was actually labeled that she was the mother of the believers because she used to do so much work in charity. And towards the end, she hardly had any money. In the last year of her death, they were eating off trees and leaves. That's how poor they were. And towards the end of her death, there was an announcement given that she was going to go to Jannah. So all that hard work that she did and all that money that she gave away, in the end, her reward was Jannah. And that's a classic example of somebody. All her wealth she gave away to orphans and the needy. You know, so amazing stories in the Quran that we can learn from. Okay, let us now move on to the next name, which is Al-Mani, which is the withholder, the preventer, the protector, and the defender. From the root Mim and Nun, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to prevent, hinder, hold back, restrain, deny, to impede, resist, to forbid, refuse, prohibit, to guard, defend, protect. Okay, the one who averts harm, physical or spiritual, the one who guards from harmful situations, the one who prevents undesirable actions, the one who impedes or hinders wrongful action, the one who stops one thing from harming another. Okay, so this is actually a very complex trait, and it's not just any old withholding, it's actually withholding from doing wrong and evil. Okay, and you would be so surprised how sometimes we may get an evil thought and then we think of Al-Mani, Allah, and we stop it completely, don't we? Think, oh no, Allah won't be happy with this. We need to stop this. That's thanks to Allah. Okay, that's thanks to remembering Him that we get rid of that shaitan straight away. Okay, so this is a really interesting name, and by remembering Al-Mani, it stops us doing anything bad. Okay, our hearts become pure and clean. So how can we mimic this name in this dunya? We can stop all frauds, we can stop foods, we can reunite friends who are doing bad by not talking to each other. We can bring people onto the right path who are doing bad. We could do dawah is another one. Bring them back onto the deen. Bring them back onto Sirat al-Mustaqim. Stop them doing bad. If they're doing bad, tell them, don't do that. Don't smoke shisha. That's not allowed. It's an intoxicant. Yeah? With amongst the youngsters, don't smoke. You're harming your body. Don't drink. That's intoxicating you. Don't fornicate and that kind of stuff. So many things that you could do to bring people back onto the right path and withhold them from doing evil, which is what Al-Mani does.
Yeah, so as people, we can almost give advice against people following their desires or something that's not particularly healthy or something sinful. If they intend or have voiced that kind of desire to do something sinful, we can say, actually, no, that's not right, and advise them against it. Another thing that came to mind when you were describing the different elements of Al-Mani was that it sounded almost like, say, for example, a person was about to be attacked. It sounded like Allah doesn't just protect that individual that's about to be harmed through like a guardian or a shield or a barrier, but it sounds like he actually eliminates the opponent by weakening them somehow through the inside, almost like taking the enemy out through the inside by withholding their strength to make any sort of advances or harm the other person in any way. That's how the imagery that came to mind. Would that be an accurate imagery of what Al-Mani could mean?
Yes. So as you saw, there were so many descriptions there, wasn't there? So he can stop that act in so many different ways. He can, he's in control of your thoughts, isn't he? But the main ingredient here is that if you remember Allah, if you remember Al-Mani, say that name means remember Allah, you stay on the right path automatically, because shaitan runs away when you mention Allah's name.
Yeah.
That's the main ingredient, and that stops all bad, and you automatically get protected from doing bad because the shaitans run off and left you alone. He can't whisper to you then. So this has so many meanings, this word does. It's absolutely amazing. And we can give good advice to people to stop them doing bad. We can make this name really well in this dunya by stopping bad. Tell them to remember Allah, tell them to do praying. And if they're doing bad, bring them onto the right path by reasoning with them in nice ways. Like Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to do.
Yes.
So, as you can see, the names are becoming more complex now. And definitely. They have multiple meanings and beautiful, beautiful meanings.
Yeah. Like you said, it could be applied to you giving advice to someone, but then the imagery that I got was, imagine someone's trying to harm you and you think, oh, this person's going to get away with it, but actually there's Al-Mani who's going to stop them from within themselves, make it hard for them to even get to that stage where they can do any sort of bad towards you.
And so remember, if you are remembering Allah and someone tries to harm you, Allah will protect you, won't he? Because you're remembering Al-Mani.
Yeah.
So say you are a practicing Muslim and you pray your salah regularly and you are remembering Al-Mani, Allah will withhold the bad that someone is going to try and do to you, like black magic, the classic example. Allah will protect you. Remember, black magic only happens if Allah allows it to happen, doesn't it? So example, someone may envy you and put a black evil eye on you, but Allah withholds that black magic from you because he loves you, because you remember Al-Mani. Okay, so there's another good example. Brilliant examples here. Okay, the next one is the opposite of the withholder in a way, and is related. It is actually a dar, the distresser. Okay, now the distresser has many, many meanings, and I will talk to you about all of those: the corrector, the balancer, the afflictor, the punisher. Okay, so from the root, we've got the d and the r and the r. Okay, the ra and the ra and the dwal, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to have an opinion that is opposing, to apply forceful correction, to do an act that is disliked, to make inconvenient, annoy, distress, to cause adversity, afflict, to harm, injure, hurt. The one who has wisdom may choose to use forceful corrections. The one who creates adversity or distress in order to discourage or correct wrongful behavior. The one whose wisdom may use situations that have an outward appearance of being harmful. So it's all of those things, okay? It's basically correcting people, okay, that are doing wrong by, in a way, causing distress, if that makes sense, okay? There's lots of meanings here. So the corrector means correcting somebody, but that could be by giving them some kind of distress, okay? So, you know, like it says, what goes round comes round. You're doing something bad, and then Allah does something bad in order to correct you, in order for you to see your ways. Okay? And in a way, we're being punished as well. So this name also means the punisher as well. So Allah is, in a way, trying to correct the person that is trying to do harm on you. Okay? Now, how can we mimic this name? We can mimic this actually by telling people are doing harm on us, the harmful effects that they are having on us. Okay? Or through religion telling them that they are doing wrong. So, for example, somebody who's doing shirk, you can tell them, why are you doing shirk? You're going to end up in hellfire. Correct your ways now. Allah is not going to forgive that sin. And Allah, that's one sin which Allah will never forgive. And by causing that distress in people, you're making them see their ways. Okay? Lots of things like that you can do. So if you know somebody who's doing black magic, you tell them that is going to be a sin that is going to take you to hellfire. That's a major sin. Don't do it. Okay? Someone is being horrible to their parents, say, oh, you're not going to enter Jannah because you only enter Jannah through your parents by serving them. So we can correct people in a way, cause a little bit of distress by telling them, okay, being forceful, that will change their ways. And sometimes you have to do this. Imams are good at doing this actually in their congregations, aren't they? They say, you will go to hellfire. You don't do this. And it puts fear in people and they think, do you know what, I think I better change.
But some of it's coming from an honest place. It's not just I'm trying to get you to do what I want. It's a giving people a reality check almost, like that's not right. You shouldn't be doing that because you're doing more harm to yourself and causing distress in an honest way, not in a way such as I want you to do this.
Yes, in an honest way is the key. Because if you use the Quran to back yourself up with Quranic ayahs and verses and what Prophet Muhammad said, you're not doing wrong in any way at all. You're actually telling them in a nice way through the deen, aren't you? And that's the best way. People cannot argue with the Quran and people cannot argue with hadiths or what the Prophet did. They just can't argue. Okay? So this is also quite a complicated one, but for those of understanding, they will understand it, definitely.
Could it be that the distress being someone that causes distress, it's actually from a place of love and concern? It almost like you're trying to prohibit them from doing something bad. So Allah does that for us. He distresses us or makes us almost have these anxious moments.
He loves us. Allah loves us, which is why he is showing us the right path. Okay? He wants us to come back onto the deen. Did you know when he distresses us? Don't forget, when you're under distress, the sins drop off you like leaves, don't they?
Yeah.
When you're ill, yeah? The sins drop off like leaves drop off a tree. That's what it says in the hadiths. And after hardship comes ease, doesn't it? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes gives us hardship and then afterwards there is ease because all our sins are forgiven. And we should be thankful actually. Don't forget, Allah tests the best of people. Even prophets were tested. Did the prophets not go through enough distress? You know? How much distress did the prophets go through? I mean, a good example here actually is Yunus alayhi salam, Jonah and the whale. At first, when Allah said, go about, spread the message of me to people, he said, I can't do this. And he ran away. And what did Allah do? He distressed him and put him in the whale. The whale swallowed him up. Okay? And inside the whale, Yunus alayhi salam was really, really distressed. And he said the dua, didn't he? He said a dua which is in the Quran. And the whale spat him out. And then Yunus alayhi salam learned his ways. He said, right, never again. I'm going to go now and I'm going to do the message of Allah. So Allah made him see his ways by causing him distress. Okay? And Allah did that because he loved Yunus alayhi salam. Yunus alayhi salam was a prophet. So it doesn't have to be a bad person. It can also be a good person who has not seen the light yet. And it's so he can see the light because Allah loves us. Okay, so very, very nice name there, and it has deep meanings, deep meanings. Now move on to Nafi, and that is the propitious, the benefactor. And propitious means giving or indicating a good chance of success, and favorable, that's what that means. And it also means the creator of good as well, and the benefactor, and the auspicious. Okay, so from the root noon, okay, and fa, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to profit, to be of use, to be beneficial, useful, to have the use of something, the one who helps and who grants all advantages, the one who creates all that produces benefit and usefulness, the one who grants all favorable circumstances, the one who confers all benefits, the one who is continually blessing all of creation with goodness and all that is useful, the one through whom all needs are fulfilled. Okay, so there are so many meanings there. And what we can do is really to look at the world, the universe, to see how Allah has benefited that universe. Okay, so again, think of Surah Rahman and think of all the things Allah has created. When people look at the universe, we should also look at what was Allah's will and why was it Allah's will, and what he should see that it's Allah's will, and what he seems to have chosen, it was also Allah's will as well. So it's basically giving Allah the credit to everything about all the blessings he has given to the creation, all the benefits he has given, all the favors he has given us, all the useful things he has given us, the advantages, the beneficent things, everything. And all that we really need to do is to look at that world and acknowledge everything that he's given us, the good, and why he's given it to us. So he's given us trees for shade and for food and for oxygen, okay, as well as beauty as well, and fruit, okay, things like that. He's given us fishes, which also give us food, and they look pretty in the sea, and they're part of the ecosystem, okay, which then benefits us. Yes, so everything in the end benefits us, whatever Allah has given us. Allah has given us the sun. What does the sun do? It makes the plants grow, and the plants give us oxygen. And the sun gives us vitamin D, which makes our immunity stronger. Okay, the sun increases our serotonin, which makes our brains really healthy. All those things, all those things. It's recognizing the ni'mah which Allah has given us, and then in turn how that benefits us. And that's how we can worship Nafi. He loves that, praising him.
And just to reiterate what you said, the best way to see how Allah is Nafi for us is through the natural environment and the benefits that we get from the natural world. Because obviously we believe that only Allah created the natural world.
Yes.
So then we can fully understand actually Allah created the trees, the birds, the sea, everything. And then we can fully appreciate and say, actually, you know what? Allah really is the only benefactor.
He is. And the next name is actually related to this name, Dar. Okay. And the names Dar we will cover in a minute is often used together with this name. to acknowledge the way that balance and harmony are established and maintained. These are opposing attributes and are often inseparable, since that which is the sweetest nectar to one person may be bitter poison to another. There's opposites here as well. But we can talk a little bit about that later on when we come to that name. Okay, the balance. But let us look at An-Nur. Nur actually is mentioned in the Quran many, many times, and it means the light. Allah is a light. Okay, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went up to Jannah, and he went up past Sidratul Muntaha, and he met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he came back down and he said, I couldn't even bear to look. There was such a strong light there. So Allah is An-Nur. And that means not only is he a very big light, he also illuminates us. So did you know that when we worship Allah, Nur comes on our faces? You may have heard of this. It's in the Quran that Aql, which is the intelligence of understanding the religion, is related to Nur, the light. Okay? So let us look at this name in more detail. It also means the one who reveals himself. Okay, reveals himself out of darkness. An-Nur comes from the root Nun and Waw and Ra, which points to four main meanings. The first main meaning is to give light and illuminate. The second is to make visible and reveal and clarify. The third main meaning is to be flaming, blazing, and apparent to the senses. And the fourth main meaning is to enlighten or give advice. Okay, so what can we do in this dunya? What we can do is to light up other people's paths by giving them knowledge, by making them happy. Yes, because the nur also comes on your face when you are happy. Know what to follow success, know what to follow for success. We can strive for Allah's light. We want to see him. Do we not want to see him when we go up to Jannah, face to face?
Of course.
In that, we have to do good deeds. We want to see his nur, okay? And also, the other really, really important one is that, did you know, if you do good deeds in this dunya, on the day of judgment, when everything's going to be so dark, your face will be shining like a moon. And when you walk across that Siratul bridge, that Ul Sirat, okay, which is that big Sirat bridge, which will be dark and black, did you know that your light will lighten up that bridge as you walk? So there's so many things we can do here by doing ibadah of An-Nur. One, our own faces will light up, which will light up our path on the day of judgment, on Qiyamah day, plus that sirat that we have to cross. And we can have nur on our faces because of the knowledge as well. And we can meet Allah up in Jannah as well. There's a summary there for you.
Yeah. So that's all the kind of things that we can do to get a nur in the hereafter. But in this life, it would be almost like, let's light up the lives of those around us. So be a source of light and guidance to those around us. Would you say that's another way to
Definitely, yes.
Because you mentioned when on the day of judgment, we'll have nur on our face for all our good deeds. When we cross the sirat, we'll light up because, again, the nur on our face, and then we'll get to see An-Nur, who is Allah, when we get to paradise. But that's in the hereafter. But to apply this into dunya, it's to be a source of light and guidance to those around us.
Yes, definitely. All of those things. Very nicely summarized there. Okay. Now, you mentioned the guide. You talked just now about guiding. So all of these names, can you see, are succinct. So I'm so glad you used about guidance, because Al-Hadi actually means the guide, the one who guides, the guider of the right path. Okay, Al-Hadi comes from the root Ha Dal Ya, which points to two main meanings. The first main meaning is to guide aright or to lead the right way. And the second main meaning is to show with kindness the proper way and to guide in the right path until reaching the goal. Okay, so very similar to the light, what we need to do is to first of all ask Allah to guide us onto the right path. Okay, now in Al-Fatiha, that prayer is actually asking Allah, isn't it, to guide us onto the right path. Siratul Mustaqim. Once we are on the right path, then the next stage is to invite others to the right path. Okay, so we can live up to this name ourselves by one, asking Allah to guide us, and two, then guiding others, and that includes doing dawah as well. Okay, and then we move on to the next name, which is Al-Badi, the incomparable, the originator, the wonderful inventor, and the innovator. Okay, so Badi comes from the root Ba Dal Ain, which points to three main meanings. The first main meaning is to originate, innovate, or start. The second main meaning is to start something, to uniquely contrive without any similarity to anything pre-existing. And the third main meaning is to be incomparable and amazing. Okay, now what we can do is to actually stay away from any innovation like bid'ah, okay? Because bid'ah is inventing something new. It's not carrying on the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So stay well away from bid'ah. And if you're not sure, research. Research, is this true? Is this not? Look at the main strongest hadiths. Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari are the best hadiths which are authentic. Not only should we after that then follow the sunnah, we must also revive sunnahs as well. So be a good role model and revive sunnahs. And if somebody is doing bid'ah, which is the opposite of sunnah, then we need to tell them what is correct. Do not be scared, because on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you, this person in your family was doing this. They were doing bid'ah, they were worshipping a saint, and that's shirk. And you knew that was wrong, and why did you not tell that person? We will be questioned on the Day of Judgment, because Allah gave us the knowledge, but not that person. And we did not use that knowledge in the right way to put that other person on the right path, okay? Which is linked with Al-Hadi as well, isn't it? Yes? So this is how all these names are linked.
Yes. So in short, Allah is the only originator, the only inventor, and because we know he can only be Al-Badi, what we learn is that we have to follow what he has invented, which is the religion of Islam, and we can't be the inventors, we can only follow it. And that's how we kind of contribute to this attribute.
Exactly, exactly. We can't invent anything new because that's doing bid'ah, okay? So the only way is to follow the right path and then invite others to follow that path as well. And correct people who are not on the right path, who are doing bid'ah. Right, Al-Baqi is the next one, the everlasting, the eternal, the ever-enduring, the ever-present. From the root is Ba, okay, and Kaf and Ya, which has the following classical Arabic connotations. It means also to remain, to continue, endure, to be permanent, everlasting, constant, to survive forever, to be continuous, endless, the one who has always existed and who will never cease to be, the one whose existence has neither beginning nor end, the one whose existence is beyond the realm of time, the one who existed before all of creation and who will remain after all of this creation has come and gone, the one who is everlasting, perpetual, beginning, endless, the one whose existence is eternal and unaffected by time, remains forever. Okay, so we cannot be everlasting. However, if we follow the deen, worship Al-Badi, yes, we can be eternal, because we know that if we pass our test and pass our big test on the Day of Judgment, we will live forever as well, won't we? So we will become like Allah. We will be the everlasting as well. And this is the only way that we can actually live up to this name. We can worship Allah, practice the deen properly, not do bid'ah like in the previous one, stay on the right path, which is also linked to Al-Hadi, and then we ourselves will be everlasting as well.
And again, just to clarify what you mean that we can be everlasting, is once we get to Jannah, there is no, it's just forever after that. So
It is, yes.
we, in this dunya, we can't mimic this attribute, but it's in Jannah when we get to live forever as well, then we can mimic this attribute.
We can, but the only way to get to that stage is to do what we need to do in this. It's too late, mate, isn't it? Once you get up there.
Yeah.
So it's
Going back.
So we need to, now is the time to act. If we want to be the everlasting, now is the time to act. And the best way is to worship Allah and nothing else. Okay? Right. The next one is Al-Warith. And that is the Inheritor, the Supreme Heir. Warith comes from the root Waw, Ra, and Tha. Okay? Which points to four main meanings. The first meaning is to inherit. The second main meaning is to be an heir or survivor. And the third is to be the owner or maintainer after one has passed. Okay? So this one is a really interesting one because, first of all, what it really means is that we cannot take any worldly possession with us. We only inherit what? Our good deeds. Okay? The only thing that we inherit really is our good deeds, which we take up with us. No worldly possession can we take with us when we leave this earth. Everything is temporary. Our status, our wealth, our houses is all temporary. Okay? And the other way, believe it or not, that we can follow this name, and a lot of people don't do this, is follow the rules of inheritance in the Quran. Now, how many families do we know in this dunya who break up over inheritance? And believe it or not, it is because they haven't divided up their wealth in the way Allah has told us to. And it always breaks up families. So one son will get the house, the other son doesn't get a house. And the daughters don't get anything. Okay? And then there's huge friction, and then for years and years the families don't talk. Okay? So this is one actually which people need to think about a bit more from what I have seen in the community. And the inheritance laws, which are in Surah Nisa in the Quran, is what we all need to do, basically. Okay? Okay. The next name is Rashid, the guide and the infallible teacher. Okay? The director to the right way, the appointer of the right path. And it also means the unerring director. From the root Rashad, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to be directed aright, to be caused to follow the right course, to be directed to take the right way, to be caused to hold a right belief, to adopt the right path, the one who unerringly decrees, appoints, or ordains the right way, the one who is the supreme director to the right path and right belief, the one who perfectly and righteously directs all matters towards their proper conclusion, the one who needs no aid to direct all affairs rightly, the one who is the director to the right way, and the one whose regulations are conducted to the attainment of their ultimate objects in the right way, without anyone's aiding in directing their course aright. Now, basically, that one is quite a complex name, Rashid, and we need to guide ourselves to the right way without any influences from other people. Only we are liable for our own deeds. Okay? Everybody else that can do what they like, we're not to follow other crowds. Okay? The only way really that we can go ahead and follow this name is to guide others and be a teacher to them and tell them what to do. But at the same time, we must stick to the right path, stick to the course which Allah has naturally guided us to. We were actually all born in a state of fitra, which means that Allah has instilled in us what is right and what is wrong, and naturally given us the right path to take. However, shaitan comes in the way, and the word insan means forgetful, so we forget and then we follow the wrong way. So don't follow the wrong path, guide ourselves, worship Allah to show us the right path, and then teach others as well. Okay, and the next one is as-sabur, the forbearing, the patient, the patiently enduring. From the root swad, ba, and ra, which has the following classical Arabic connotations: to be patient, to be enduring, to endure trial or affliction with good manner, to be contented in trial or affliction without show of complaint, to make no distinction between comfort and affliction, to bear calmly, to preserve cheerfully, to be steadfast, constant to restrain, confine, withhold from something. The one who is most patient, steadfast, enduring, the one who is not moved by haste to carry out any action before its proper time, the one who patiently endures and does everything in its proper time and proper manner, no matter how long that may take. The one who patiently accomplishes each thing in its proper time, in the way it needs to be, and according to what it requires. So there are lots of meanings to this. You may have heard of the word sabr, which also comes from sabur. We know that Prophet Ayub, alayhi salam, or Job in English, he was the most patient prophet. He was really, really ill, and he was afflicted by disease, a test after test after test. And he was so patient. And afterwards, Allah rewarded him with gold. He was showered by pieces of gold while he was having a shower. Okay? So this is a clue. If we are patient, we put our trust in Allah, Allah will grant us paradise. And it's written in so many ayahs in the Quran that if we are patient and we have self-restraint and we bear things without complaint, Allah will help us. Okay? We also need to remember that after hardship comes ease. Okay? And that hardship is actually a test. We must have sabr. It is a test in this dunya. And the end result is Jannah if we can pass that test. also, we need to be good role models for our children. If we don't have sabr, they won't have sabr. If we are impatient, they will be impatient as well. Okay? So we really, really must adhere to this one. It's a very, very important one. And in this dunya, where we have so much at a touch of a button, we can Google things so quickly. Okay? We can get a takeaway just by phoning and it gets delivered to our door. It's very, very easy to lose sabr because we don't have to learn patience.
No, we live in a fast-paced world where everything's just at
a fingertip. Okay? Do you know, in the olden days, people had more sabr. If they wanted a toy, they had to go out, they had to find it, they had to find time to find it, they had to go to 100 shops to find what they wanted.
Yeah.
And we were granted sabr, patience. Okay? If we wanted to have a day out, we had to collect money first for that day out. We had to earn money. Okay? Nowadays, at a touch of a button. If we needed knowledge, we had to think of a day when we can go to the library. We had to look for the book. It took us hours to learn one fact off the shelf. And sometimes the book had to be reserved, and the book would take 3 weeks for it to come into the library. Then we'd go and collect it. We had to have sabr. Now, Google, and the knowledge is there. So people are losing sabr nowadays in this modern, fast-paced world. We are losing sabr. Okay? This pandemic helped us a lot. This pandemic has made us get sabr, didn't it? The third lockdown where there's no restaurants and we're waiting patiently. All the shops shut down. We're waiting patiently till Primark opens again at that high street.
Yeah.
It's taught us patience, this has, isn't it? This lockdown has taught us great patience. Poverty-stricken people in other lands, they have more patience than us. They don't have mobile phones. They don't have internet. They don't have online shopping. They don't have online food. They have more patience than people who are living in developed countries.
So even acknowledging all of those kind of aspects of patience, looking at it from a different perspective, in regards to when we're hit with like calamities and problems and things, I think there's a common misconception of what it means to have sabr in those types of contexts. So could we just clarify that being patient doesn't mean just being okay with the situation? It could be that it's a very hard situation, but you have faith that Allah will get you through it. And even though you're feeling sad, angry, anxious, you're allowed to feel those things. And that doesn't mean that you don't have sabr, because sabr is a bit more than just accepting, okay, and just saying.
Yes, correct. Sabr is also not complaining, okay? So some people have sabr, but then they still complain about it. But real sabr is also not complaining. And this name is there for a reason, because you know what? We need to turn to Allah. Okay, when we are not getting something that we want, a dua is not being kabuled is also not having sabr, and you complaining, oh, Allah never answers my prayers. That is complaining. We must keep persisting, keep doing dua to Allah. Okay, so sabr is there so that we can turn to Allah. We can get sabr by turning to Allah. If we are impatient, He will never give us what we want. If we are patient, Allah loves the most patient. It tells you in the Quran. So this name is there so that we can turn to Allah for patience in hard times. Help us get through the hard times, the calamities, or the illness, you know, or waiting. Someone may not have a baby and may not be able to conceive. They have to be patient. The treatment they're taking is not working. Be patient. Turn to Allah. Allah can grant your every wish. He is the one. who listens to your du'as. Okay, so this ends with the last name, and as you can see, each and every one of those names are so important, and we would be perfect people if we followed all of those names in our lifetime here on this dunya, and we worshipped Allah in the capacity of all those names, because then He would give us all those qualities in turn, wouldn't He? Yes? And then do you know what? We would be perfect people. We would, if we followed all of those names, turned to Allah for all of those things, and He would give us in turn all those qualities, and we would be like perfect people.
Yeah.
And inshallah then get to Jannah. So it's a beautiful circle there.
Yes.
Where we are worshipping Allah, and He is then giving us those qualities that we are asking for. Absolutely amazing.
And just to clarify, the purpose of this series is just to show that these qualities are there, and we know these qualities. Allah taught us these qualities of Himself to show that we can mimic it, so that we can build our character and be a people of Jannah, be proper Muslims. And again, all those good qualities, they originate from Him anyway. So us
Yes. Now, if we worship Allah with these names in our mind, so we say, oh, Allah, please, can you guide me? Allah, please, can you give me rizq? Ar-Razaq, give me rizq. Yes? Allah, give me sabr. Oh, as-sabur, give me sabr. If we name those names, this is why we are asked to memorize those 99 names, and we ask Allah in that capacity by saying His name, He will give us more attention. It's like when people say to us our name, then we look at them, don't we? Okay, so we can say, oh, please give me sabr, or please give me dhikr, give me rizq. But if we say, ar-Razaq, give me rizq, as-sabur, give me sabr, He is more likely to answer our dua, because it's direct attention. Just like when we're talking to somebody and they're just generally talking and you don't look at them, and then suddenly they say your name and you say, oh yeah, what was it you said?
Yes.
Pay attention. This is why we are asked to memorize these 99 names, so that we can use them in our duas, because our duas are more readily then going to be accepted. And we are saying those names, then Allah will give us that attribute more. Okay? And then we will become really good people with all these qualities, and our life will be so much easier as well.
Well, thank you very much for spending time with me. Assalamu alaikum, and I hope to see you in our next one.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.